The sky turned black on a Tuesday morning. Yuki Tanaka stood on the roof of the United Nations building in New York City. She watched as thousands of alien warships blocked out the sun. Each ship was bigger than a mountain. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a continent. And there were 10,000 of them. The people on the streets below screamed and ran. Cars crashed into each other. Some people fell to their knees and prayed. Others just stood still, too shocked to move. Yuki did not run. She did not pray. She had known this day would come. She had prepared for it her entire life. Her phone rang. It was the President of the United States. "Admiral Tanaka," the President said. His voice was shaking. "They want to talk. They are broadcasting on every channel, every radio, every television, every phone in the world." "I know," Yuki said calmly. "Let them speak. Let them make their demands. And then call me back." She hung up and looked at the massive ships above. Their design was cruel and sharp, like weapons made into vehicles. Purple lights glowed along their hulls. She had seen pictures of ships like these before, pictures that were supposed to be impossible, pictures from a vault buried deep under the ice of Antarctica. The aliens called themselves the Vethkal. Their leader, Grand Arbiter Kethvorian, appeared on every screen on Earth at the same moment. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that burned with cold intelligence. His voice was translated into every human language at once. "People of Earth," he said, "I am Kethvorian the Undying. I have ruled the dominion of Vethkal for 3,000 of your years. We control 3,000 star systems. We have conquered 400 species. None have ever defeated us. None have ever escaped us." He paused and smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You have 2 choices. The first choice is surrender. You will serve us. You will work in our mines and factories. You will give us your resources, your technology, and your children as soldiers. In return, we will let you live." People around the world held their breath. "The second choice is resistance. If you choose to fight, we will burn your cities. We will poison your oceans. We will kill every man, woman, and child on your planet. We have done this before. We will do it again. We feel nothing about it." Kethvorian leaned closer to the camera. "You have 24 hours to decide. Choose wisely." The broadcast ended. Chaos erupted across the world. Governments argued. Military leaders shouted. Scientists ran calculations that all ended the same way. Earth had no chance. Human weapons could not even scratch those alien ships. The math was simple and terrible. Humanity was going to die or become slaves. 12 hours later, Yuki Tanaka stood in a secret room beneath the Antarctic ice. The room was older than human civilization. Its walls were made of a black metal that did not exist anywhere on Earth. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing with a faint blue light. Around her stood the most powerful leaders in the world: presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists. They had all been brought here by helicopter, confused and scared. "What is this place?" the President of the United States asked. "This place has many names," Yuki said. "We call it the Vault. It was discovered in 1947. It has been the most guarded secret in human history ever since." "Who built it?" the Chinese president asked. "Not humans," Yuki replied. "A species we call the Precursors. They lived on Earth 300,000 years ago, long before our ancestors came down from the trees." She walked to a large console in the center of the room. It hummed with power that human scientists had never been able to understand. "The Precursors faced the Vethkal too," she continued. "They fought them, they beat them back, and then they disappeared. But before they left, they did something incredible. They hid a fleet of warships throughout our solar system. Ships more powerful than anything the Vethkal have. Ships that have been waiting for this exact moment." "Waiting for what?" a Russian general asked. Yuki placed her hand on the console. It glowed brighter at her touch. Waiting for us. The precursors put something in human DNA. A key, a genetic code that would activate when we evolved enough to understand, when we were ready to inherit their power. She turned to face the leaders. We have a choice. We can surrender to the Vethkal. We can become slaves. We can watch our children taken away to fight in alien wars. Her eyes hardened. Or we can wake up the Black Armada and show these monsters that they made a terrible mistake coming to our world. The room was silent. What is the Black Armada? Someone whispered. Yuki smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator. It is our inheritance, our birthright. It is the weapon the precursors left for us. And today, we are going to use it. She pressed her hand harder against the console. Deep beneath the ice, something ancient began to wake up. Across the solar system, on moons and asteroids and planets humanity had never explored, hatches that had been closed for 300,000 years began to open. The Black Armada was rising, and the Vethkal had no idea what was coming for them. On the dark side of the moon, where no sunlight ever reached, the ice cracked open. Metal doors that had been buried for longer than humanity existed began to slide apart. The ground shook. Dust that had been still for thousands of centuries rose into the airless sky. Then the ships emerged. They were black. Not just dark or painted black. They were black like the space between stars. Black like the void itself had been shaped into weapons. They made no sound as they rose from their hiding places. They needed no engines that human eyes could see. They simply moved, as if gravity meant nothing to them. There were hundreds of them on the moon alone. More rose from Europa, the ice moon of Jupiter. The frozen ocean cracked and split as massive vessels broke through. On Titan, ships emerged from the methane seas, their black hulls dripping with orange liquid that froze and fell away like tears. On asteroids scattered throughout the solar system, hangar doors opened and fighters launched in perfect formation. The Black Armada was waking up, and it was angry. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood in the Antarctic vault, her hand still pressed against the alien console. Information flooded into her mind. It was not like reading or hearing. It was like remembering something she had always known but forgotten. The knowledge of the precursors poured into her brain. She learned what the Black Armada was. She learned why it had been built. She learned why it had been hidden. And she learned why the Vethkal should be very, very afraid. "The flagship is ready," she said, her voice strange and distant. "It is called Obsidian Judgment. It is coming for me. For us." The world leaders watched in amazement as a holographic display appeared above the console. It showed a ship descending toward Earth. This ship was larger than the others. It was 5 kilometers long, shaped like a blade made of darkness. It moved through the Vethkal blockade as if the alien ships did not exist. The Vethkal fired at it. Their weapons did nothing. The beams and missiles simply disappeared when they touched the black hull. "How is that possible?" a scientist whispered. "The precursors did not build ships," Yuki explained. "They grew them. These vessels are alive in a way we cannot understand. They adapt, they learn, they evolve, and right now, they are learning everything about Vethkal weapons and finding ways to destroy them." Grand Arbiter Kethavorian watched from his command ship as the black vessel descended to Earth. His 4 eyes narrowed with something he had not felt in centuries. Concern. "What is that thing?" he demanded. "Scan it. Identify it." His officers worked frantically at their stations. Alarms beeped. Screens flickered. Finally, one officer turned to him with a pale gray face. "Grand Arbiter, our systems recognize this design. It is in our oldest historical records, from before the first expansion, from the War of Extinction." Kethavorian felt cold fear creep into his hearts. That is impossible. We destroyed them all. The precursors are dead. Their fleet was eliminated. The records say some ships escaped, the officer said quietly. They fled to a primitive world on the edge of the galaxy. A world called... He checked his screen. Earth. Kethavorian stood very still. 3,000 years of conquest. 400 conquered species. An empire that stretched across the stars. And now, on this small blue planet, the ghosts of his people's oldest enemy had returned. It does not matter, he said, forcing confidence into his voice. That was millennia ago. Our technology has advanced. We have 10,000 ships. They cannot have more than a few hundred. We will crush them as we crushed everyone else. But his officers did not look convinced, and neither was he. On Earth, the Obsidian Judgment landed in Antarctica, near the vault entrance. Yuki Tanaka walked out onto the ice to meet it. A doorway opened in the black hull, revealing a corridor that glowed with soft blue light. She stepped inside. The ship welcomed her. She felt it in her mind, like a warm hand taking hers. The ship had been waiting for her. Not for any human. For her specifically. Her bloodline. Her DNA. The precursors had planned for this moment 300,000 years ago, and she was the key they had designed. "Show me everything," she said. The ship showed her. She saw the precursors as they had been. Tall beings of light and thought, more energy than flesh. She saw them discover the young Vethkal Empire and try to make peace. She saw the Vethkal respond with violence, with conquest, with genocide. She saw the war that followed. She saw the precursors win battle after battle, pushing the Vethkal back to their home system. And then she saw the choice the precursors made. They could have destroyed the Vethkal completely. They had the power. But they chose mercy instead. They hoped the Vethkal would learn, would change, would become better. They were wrong. The moment the precursors left this region of the galaxy, the Vethkal rebuilt their fleet. They became conquerors again. They grew more cruel, more powerful, more unstoppable. The precursors had made a mistake. They had shown mercy to monsters. Yuki understood now why she had been chosen, why humans had been created to inherit this power. The precursors were beings of light and peace. They could not do what needed to be done, but humans could. Humans knew how to fight, how to hate, how to kill without mercy when mercy was not deserved. Humans had spent their entire history at war with each other. They were violent and angry and dangerous. And now they had the weapons to match their fury. Yuki sat in the command chair of the Obsidian Judgment. Around the solar system, human pilots were boarding the other ships of the Black Armada. The vessels accepted them, welcomed them, taught them how to fight in minutes what would normally take years to learn. She opened a channel to Earth. Her face appeared on every screen, just as Kethavorian's had. "People of Earth," she said, "we are not going to surrender. We are not going to be slaves. We are going to fight, and we are going to win." She smiled grimly. "The Black Armada rises, and the Vethkal will learn why the precursors feared what humanity would become." In space, the Vethkal fleet began to move toward Earth. 10,000 warships against a few hundred human vessels. The odds seemed impossible. The Vethkal would soon learn that humans did not believe in impossible. The Battle of the Lunar Perimeter began at exactly 3:47 p.m. Earth time. 2,000 Vethkal warships moved toward the moon in a perfect arrow formation. It was their standard attack pattern, the same pattern that had crushed 400 species before humanity. The same pattern that had never failed in 3,000 years of conquest. Against them stood 300 ships of the Black Armada. They floated in silence near the moon's surface, black shapes against the gray dust and the endless stars. They did not move into formation. They did not charge forward. They simply waited. Captain Marcus Cole sat in the command chair of the destroyer Spite. He was 42 years old. He had served in the United States Navy for 20 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He had never lost a battle, but he had also never fought aliens in space. The ship spoke to him directly in his mind. It showed him the enemy formation. It showed him their weapons, their shields, their weak points. It taught him how to fight in 3 dimensions, where there was no up or down, no ground to stand on. Most importantly, it showed him how to win. "All ships," Marcus said through the mental link that connected every human commander. "They expect us to fight like the precursors did, clean, careful, defensive. We are not going to do that. We are going to fight like humans." He felt agreement from the other captains. They were soldiers, pilots, sailors. They were men and women who had spent their lives learning how to kill. The Black Armada had given them new weapons, but it had not changed who they were. "Attack pattern chaos," Marcus ordered. "Hit them hard, hit them fast, and do not stop hitting them until they are dead." The Black Armada exploded into motion. There was no formation, no pattern. Each ship moved independently, choosing its own targets, finding its own angles of attack. To the Vethkal sensors, it looked like madness, random, unpredictable. Impossible to counter. That was exactly the point. Marcus pushed the Spite straight toward the largest enemy ship he could see. Vethkal weapons fire filled the space around him. His ship dodged and weaved, moving in ways that should have been impossible. The black hull absorbed the shots that did hit, growing stronger with each impact. "Their shields are weakest at the engine ports," the ship told him. "Recommend attacking from behind." "No," Marcus replied. "We go straight through the front door." The ship did not argue. It trusted him. It had waited 300,000 years for a commander who would fight without fear, without hesitation, without mercy. The Spite hit the Vethkal carrier at full speed, but instead of crashing, it cut through the enemy shields like a knife through paper. Its weapons fired continuously, tearing through armor and hull and everything inside. The carrier broke apart around them, explosions blooming in the vacuum of space. Marcus flew out the other side, his ship covered in enemy debris, and immediately targeted the next ship. Across the battlefield, human commanders were doing the same thing. They rammed enemy ships. They flew through defensive formations. They attacked from angles no sane pilot would try. They did things the Vethkal had never seen before, and they were winning. Grand Arbiter Kethavorian watched the battle from his command ship, far behind the front lines. His 4 eyes could not believe what they were seeing. "They are insane," he whispered. "They fly like they want to die." "Grand Arbiter," an officer reported, his voice shaking. "We have lost 400 ships, 500, 600. They are cutting through our formation like it is not there." "Then send more ships," Kethavorian screamed. "Surround them! Overwhelm them!" But the humans adapted faster than the Vethkal could respond. Every time a new wave of enemy ships arrived, the Black Armada changed tactics. They split apart. They regrouped. They attacked from unexpected directions. They learned from every engagement and became better. The precursor ships were evolving in real time. The human commanders were teaching them new ways to kill. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, 2,000 Vethkal warships drifted as burning wreckage around the moon. The lights of their explosions lit up the lunar surface like a second sunrise. The Black Armada had lost 6 ships out of 300, and every single human crew had been saved. The precursor vessels had ejected their pilots before destruction, sending them safely to other ships. The Vethkal had no such technology. No such concern for their soldiers' lives. Captain Marcus Cole looked at the destruction around him. He felt no joy, no satisfaction, only cold determination. "This was just the beginning," he said through the mental link. "They have 8,000 more ships coming, and that is just what they have here. Their empire has millions more." Admiral Tanaka's voice responded from the Obsidian Judgment. Then we will destroy them all. Every single one. Until they understand that Earth is not a planet to be conquered. It is a graveyard for those who try. Across the solar system, the rest of the Vethkal fleet changed course. They had been moving slowly before, confident in their victory. Now they accelerated to full speed, racing toward Earth with murder in their hearts. Grand Arbiter Kethavorian had called for every ship in the sector. 100,000 warships were burning through space toward the small blue planet that had dared to resist. He did not care about losses anymore. He did not care about conquest or slaves or resources. He only cared about revenge. He wanted to see Earth burn. He wanted to hear humanity scream. He would get his wish, but not in the way he expected. The humans were waiting for him, and they had a surprise that would change the galaxy forever. In her command chair, Admiral Tanaka received a new transmission from the Obsidian Judgment's ancient memory banks. Information that had been locked away until this moment. Information about weapons hidden not just in Earth's solar system, but in the hearts of stars across the Vethkal Empire. She read the data 3 times. Her face went pale. The precursors had not just left humanity a fleet. They had left humanity the power to destroy entire civilizations with a single command. The question was, would she use it? Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood alone in the heart of the Obsidian Judgment. The ship had created a special room for her, a place where she could think without interruption. The walls showed the stars outside, making her feel like she was floating in space itself. The information the ship had given her burned in her mind like fire. 3,000 stars, 3,000 weapons, each one hidden in the core of a sun at the center of a Vethkal system. The precursors had placed them there millennia ago, during their war against the Empire. Each weapon could make a star explode instantly, destroying everything around it. 3,000 systems, trillions of lives. One command could end them all. The ship spoke to her gently. The weapons were designed as a last resort. If the Black Armada was ever destroyed, they would activate automatically. The Vethkal would never be able to threaten anyone again. But I can trigger them manually, Yuki said. It was not a question. Yes, the precursors left that power to their inheritors, to humanity, to you, specifically. Yuki closed her eyes. She thought about Earth, her home, her people. 8 billion human beings who were counting on her to save them. 8 billion lives that the Vethkal wanted to end or enslave. Then she thought about the Vethkal worlds, the soldiers who were coming to destroy Earth, yes. But also the civilians, the families, the children who had never chosen war, the slave species that the Vethkal had conquered and forced to serve them. If she triggered the weapons, they would all die, the guilty and the innocent together. I cannot do it, she whispered. I cannot murder trillions of people even to save my own. The precursors hoped you would say that, the ship replied. They believed humanity had the capacity for mercy, as well as war. That is why they chose your species to inherit their legacy. But the Vethkal will not stop, Yuki said. Even if we beat them today, they will come back. They always come back. How can I show mercy to monsters who know nothing of mercy themselves? The ship did not answer. Some questions had no easy answers. Outside, the Vethkal reinforcement fleet was approaching Mars. 100,000 warships moved in perfect formation. They blocked out the stars behind them like a wall of death. Compared to them, the Black Armada looked like a handful of dust against a mountain. Commander James Oyalaran contacted Yuki from his ship, the Silent Thunder. He was her second in command and her oldest friend. They had served together for 15 years. Admiral, we are outnumbered 300 to 1. Even with our technology advantage, we cannot win a straight fight. We will take many of them with us, but they will reach Earth eventually. I know, Yuki replied. The ship must have given you other options, other weapons. Yuki was silent for a long moment. It did. But the cost is too high. James understood without being told. He had known Yuki long enough to read her silences. There is another way. The Vethkal are not monsters because they were born evil. They are monsters because they have never faced consequences. They have never been afraid. What are you suggesting? Make them afraid. Show them what we can do. Force them to choose between survival and war. Yuki thought about this. The Vethkal had spent 3,000 years as the predators of the galaxy. Every species they had met had either surrendered or been destroyed. They had forgotten what it felt like to be prey. Maybe it was time to remind them. She opened a communication channel on all Vethkal frequencies. Every enemy ship in the solar system heard her voice at the same moment. Grand Arbiter Kethavorian, I know you are listening. I know you think you have won. You have more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. By every logical measure, you should crush us. She paused and let the silence stretch. But logic does not account for what I am about to tell you, so listen carefully. On his command ship, Kethavorian leaned forward. His four eyes narrowed with hatred and curiosity. The precursors did not just leave us a fleet, Yuki continued. They left us weapons hidden in the hearts of your stars. 3,000 of them, one for every system in your empire. I can trigger them with a single thought. I can make your suns explode. I can end your entire civilization in less time than it takes you to blink. The Vethkal communication channels erupted with panic. Officers shouted questions. Scientists ran calculations. Grand Arbiter Kethavorian raised his hand for silence. You are bluffing, he said, but his voice was not as confident as before. Test me, Yuki replied coldly. Attack Earth. See what happens. But know this, if a single human child dies because of your invasion, I will kill every living thing in your empire. Not just soldiers. Everyone. Your families, your children, your slaves, everyone. I will turn your civilization to ash and scatter it across the universe, and I will do it without hesitation. Silence. Absolute, perfect silence across every channel. You have one solar day to retreat from Earth, free your slave species, and disarm your war fleets. If you do this, you may live. If you do not... Yuki let her voice drop to a whisper. The stars will darken, and the Vethkal will become nothing but a warning in the history books of other species. She cut the communication. On the bridge of his command ship, Grand Arbiter Kethavorian sat very still. His officers watched him, waiting for orders, waiting to be told that the human was lying, that their empire was not in danger, that they would still win. He said nothing. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Vethkal were afraid, and in the darkness of space, the Black Armada waited to see what choice they would make. 23 hours and 47 minutes after Admiral Tanaka's ultimatum, Grand Arbiter Kethavorian sent his response. We will discuss terms. 4 words that had never been spoken by a Vethkal leader in 3,000 years. 4 words that changed the galaxy forever. The negotiations took 37 days. They were held on Mars, on the red plains of Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. Human and Vethkal representatives met in a temporary structure built between their 2 fleets. Outside, 100,000 Vethkal warships faced 300 human vessels. Neither side fired a single shot. Admiral Tanaka led the human delegation. Grand Arbiter Kethavorian led the Vethkal. They sat across from each other at a simple metal table, surrounded by advisors and translators and guards. You have won, Kethavorian said on the first day. His voice was flat and empty. What do you want? Yuki looked at him for a long moment before answering. I want to understand something first. You have conquered 400 species. You have enslaved trillions of beings. You have committed countless atrocities. Why? What was the point of all that suffering? Cathavorian seemed surprised by the question. Survival. Power. The strong survive. The weak serve. This is the natural law of the universe. No, Yuki said softly. It is not. It is the law that you chose because you were afraid. The precursors showed you mercy once, and you saw it as weakness. You built your entire empire on the belief that kindness is stupidity and cruelty is strength. She leaned forward. I could kill your entire civilization right now. I have the power. By your own logic, I should use it. You are weak. You are defeated. The strong should destroy you completely. Cathavorian said nothing. But I am not going to do that. Not because I cannot. Because I choose not to. Because true strength is not the ability to destroy. It is the ability to destroy and still choose mercy. The negotiations continued. Slowly, painfully, the terms of the treaty took shape. The Vethkal would withdraw all military forces from Earth's solar system and never return. They would release every slave species they had conquered over 3,000 years. They would disarm their largest warships and allow human inspectors to verify compliance. They would pay reparations to the species they had wronged. In exchange, humanity would not trigger the stellar weapons. The Vethkal would be allowed to live. Many humans opposed the treaty. They wanted revenge for the terror the Vethkal had caused. They wanted to see the empire burn. They said that mercy was foolish, that the Vethkal would never change, that they would rebuild and attack again someday. Admiral Tanaka addressed the Earth Council on the final day of negotiations. Yes, they might betray us someday. Yes, mercy is a risk, but genocide is not a risk. It is a certainty that we will become exactly like them. A certainty that we will lose our souls, even as we save our lives. She looked at the council members one by one. The precursors had the chance to destroy the Vethkal. They chose mercy and hoped the Vethkal would change. They were wrong. But they were not wrong to hope. They were not wrong to try. And I would rather be wrong in the same way they were than right in the way the Vethkal have been for 3,000 years. The treaty was signed. The Vethkal fleet departed Earth's solar system on a cold morning in December. 100,000 warships turned and flew away, their engines painting streaks of light across the darkness. On Earth, billions of people watched them go. The effects of humanity's victory spread faster than light. News traveled across the galaxy through communication networks the humans did not even know existed. The Vethkal, the unconquerable Vethkal, had been defeated by a species that had not even left its own solar system before. Slave species began to revolt. Conquered worlds declared independence. The Vethkal Empire, which had seemed so permanent and powerful, crumbled in weeks. Without their reputation for invincibility, they had nothing. Refugees came to Earth, representatives of 100 different species, asking for protection, for guidance, for help rebuilding their worlds. Humanity had become the center of a new galactic order, not through conquest, but through hope. The Galactic Compact was formed 1 year after the Battle of the Lunar Perimeter. Earth served as its capital. Admiral Tanaka was elected as its first president. She accepted the position reluctantly, but she understood that someone had to lead, and she had earned the trust of both humans and aliens alike. The Black Armada returned to its hiding places throughout the solar system. The ships went back to sleep beneath the ice of Europa, in the caverns of the moon, in the depths of Titan's seas. But they remained ready. They could be awakened again if they were needed. The stellar weapons remained active as well. A reminder, a warning. The Vethkal knew they existed. So did everyone else. No one would ever threaten Earth without remembering what humanity could do if pushed too far. President Tanaka gave her final address to the Compact Council on the 5th anniversary of First Contact. She stood at a podium overlooking a chamber filled with representatives from 1,000 different worlds. Some were tall and thin, some were short and round, some did not have bodies at all, existing as clouds of light or patterns of sound. All of them had come to hear her speak. 5 years ago, we were alone and afraid. We thought we were small and weak and unimportant. We thought the universe was cold and hostile, and that survival meant becoming cold and hostile ourselves. She paused and looked at the assembled beings. We were wrong. Survival does not mean becoming monsters. Strength does not mean cruelty. Power does not mean destruction. We were given weapons that could have ended civilizations, and we chose not to use them. We were given enemies who deserved no mercy, and we showed them mercy anyway. Not because we were weak, because we were strong enough to be kind. Her voice softened. This is what humanity offers the galaxy. Not our weapons, not our technology, but our belief that the universe can be better, that beings can change, that hope is not foolish, even when hope seems impossible. She raised her hand toward the stars visible through the chamber's dome. We inherited power from the precursors, but we also inherited their dream, a dream of a galaxy where species work together instead of conquering each other, where differences are celebrated instead of destroyed, where no child of any species has to fear that monsters will come from the sky. She smiled, and for a moment she looked not like a president or an admiral, but like a woman who had seen darkness and chosen light. The Black Armada sleeps. I hope it sleeps forever, but if the darkness ever rises again, we will not hesitate to answer. Earth remembers its enemies. Earth protects its friends, and Earth will never stop hoping for a better tomorrow. The chamber erupted in applause. 1,000 species, united not by fear or force, but by the simple belief that the universe could be better than it was. Outside, the stars shone down on a galaxy that was finally learning to hope, and somewhere in the darkness between worlds, the Black Armada dreamed of peace.